How's it going today, guys? In this video I'm going to be going over the BCM MK2 Recoil Mitigation System in regards to the buffer system, and I'm also going to be showing you how to install it. This whole kit is about $120. I had to buy it separately because it was out of stock. What it does is it mitigates recoil or lessens recoil. Also what it does is it gives you a more reliable and consistent feeding and bolt carrier pattern or closing. So not only does it lessen recoil, but it's also going to make your bolt carrier cycle more reliably. Now, I do not run a muzzle brake on my AR-15, so I'm needing any type of recoil help I can get there. I just run a flash hider, but if you wanted something to lessen recoil, a muzzle brake is definitely going to do the most in regards to lessening recoil. But since I don't have a muzzle brake, this is one of the ways I can lessen recoil. So one of the main differences is that this is a 8-position instead of a 6-position adjustment range. So this is a little bit longer, and it adds a little bit of weight. Not a whole lot here, but your buffer weight is going to be the main difference in weight, which it will make your rifle a little bit heavier, but it can help offset a little bit weight front to back if you're a little bit front heavy. So I don't think that this being longer is a big issue because nobody is going to be running their stock fully collapsed. So the only thing with this is that when you collapse your stock all the way, it might not butt up directly to the end of your receiver, which is okay because, like I said, I haven't met anyone who runs their stock all the way forward. You just won't be able to get a good grip on the gun doing that. So that's not a big problem, which I'll do a comparison to see how much before and after I'm able to close it. Obviously, it's not going to add any length when the stock is out, but if you were running it all the way forward, it would add a little bit of length. This is an M16 rifle spring, so it is longer than your normal carbine buffer spring. So you want to make sure to get this. I got this off BCM as well. I asked them if I could run Geisley's Super 42 M16 longer buffer spring, and they said that they cannot guarantee pretty much that it will work correctly with that. So I went ahead and went with this instead because they couldn't guarantee it. And then this is the T2 version of the MK2 buffer weight, which it is longer and it is a bit heavier, so it's going to help with some recoil impulse, and it's going to help with reliability of the bolt carrier group and how it goes back and forth. So this whole system will add a little bit of weight. Honestly, it'll probably just be a few ounces. I got the T2 because of the chart that T-Rex Arms put up. If you go on T-Rex Arms website and then you go to the BCM MK2 Recoil Mitigation thing, it will, if you scroll down a little bit, it'll give you a chart for barrel length, and then if you're shooting unsuppressed all the time, 50%, or always suppressed, it'll give you some guidelines on what to choose. Just a few tools. I will be Loctiting this just to make sure it's not moving. You can stake it if you want, but I don't want to permanently attach it on there. If I were to stake it, it would pretty much be permanently attached. Then you want something like a castle nut tool or an armorer's wrench. This is from Magpul. This is a nice heavy duty one, but you can get smaller ones. And then if you are putting your rifle together for the first time, you're obviously going to want your castle nut, your receiver end plate, and a little spring, and I can't think of the name of it, but a spring, and it's in your lower parts kit to hold your buffer weight in. There is another way that's similar to this, and it's like a captured spring buffer weight. I can't think of the name of that either. It's like this long or something, maybe a little bit longer, but it's a spring, a weight, and like some counterweights all in one. I use a lot of BCM stuff. They make really good and durable and reliable products. So for me personally, I'm going to go with them because of their track history, because of their durability and reliability, and because of their testing and their standards for what they put out. Now, I do run their MK2 uppers, which is great stuff, and I would prefer to go with somebody I know, and I could recommend this over something I've never heard about in regards to the captured springs. So I would recommend this over that, and I would think that this would give you a better result rather to the other methods. So it says on the back of the card, lessons felt: recoil without compromising reliability, consistent carrier velocity, which improves accuracy and reliability over conventional carbine buffer system, increased internal counterweight travel, reduces and eliminates bolt bounce, and the more coils on the M16 spring increases consistency and widens operating envelope internal spring to reduce noise and counterweight shifting, and just longer lasting. And then you shouldn't use it without using all the parts for that come in the BCM kit. So without using all these parts could cause problems. First thing you're going to do, just make sure your rifle's clear. You're going to push in these two right there, your 2 takedown pins. Mine are a little bit stubborn, so I'm just going to push them in all the way. Pull it out. Pull this other one out. Then I can take my upper off. So now that I have my upper off, next thing I'm going to do, I need to get the stock off. So for this one, or for your braces, or for most, you just need to pull down those 2 tabs. But for this new Magpul CTR stock, if you can see that little hole right there, I'm going to shove something in there and then pull that down far enough to where the bolt comes out of the bottom of this. Just used a screwdriver to pull that hole down as far as I can to get it unlatched, about there. So it's about 1 inch longer, which isn't a big deal. Even if you just run it 1 out, it would be the exact same length, so you're not losing anything. And I'm just going to take something like a screwdriver, and I'm going to push that down. Push that down, and I can go ahead and pull that out. Spring is at least 2 inches longer, about 2.5. Now I'm just going to slip this over the end. Just want to be careful so you're not scratching it up real bad. And then turn it counterclockwise. Just going to unscrew it all the way. It doesn't have to be all the way. I'm going to pull my end plate back. Now if you do get an end plate, I recommend the one from BCM. Like I said, BCM just makes great stuff. So you can run a QD sling mount right there, and then you can run your sling there if you prefer. But I like to run it just to have the option. Now what I'm going to do next, I'm going to put my finger on top of that because there's a spring under there, there's tension. And then, so I have my finger over that, and then I'm just going to twist it counterclockwise. So now that I have that off, I'm just going to take that out. And the spring as well. Make sure not to lose those. Also, this is the tipped-in gun vise. I've been using it for a while, and it's great because it has all the compartments, and then you can just go ahead and set that back on there. Great gun vise. This is what I was talking about, staking those points right there. You can take a punch and then smash it down once you have it set, but if you do that, it's pretty much permanently on there. So you want to take this off if you're uninstalling. You gotta go ahead and unscrew this. You see how there's a notch on the bottom of the buffer tube, and then there's a notch there. You need to make sure those align when you're trying to pull it off, otherwise you're going to damage those threads. Now I have the big notches. I'm going to make sure they're faced towards the end of the buffer tube. I'm going to screw it on there. Take my end plate. If you have BCM, you want the star facing out because that is thicker on that side. I'll line up the notch. That notch right there, make sure that's lined up. That fits over. Now I don't want to stake it, but I am going to put some Loctite on here. So I'm just taking some blue 242 Loctite. you do put this on and you don't like that, it is going to be a little bit harder to get off, but it will make it more secure. On that last one, I didn't have anything on there and it came off pretty easy. So I'm just going to put one stripe around. One thing I forgot to mention, when you're taking off your end plate, that little silver screw that's in there, that's holding a spring in there that's keeping my takedown lever intact. So you want to make sure, if you have an older model or just a different model, that that spring doesn't go flying, because if it does go flying, you're going to need a new spring to keep this intact. So when you first pull the end plate off, make sure you're keeping tension there, because usually there's just a spring there instead of that screw. I'm going to go ahead and screw this in. And what you're keeping an eye on is that bottom edge. So if you can see how the bottom of the tube is longer, as soon as I get close to it, right there, I'm going to go ahead and drop my spring back in. There's my spring. Then I'm going to take my retainer and drop that in as well. Now, I'm going to go ahead and push that back down again, spin it in a little bit more, and now that's holding. But you want to make sure that it's not butting up all the way against it. You just want about half of your buffer tube on the silver retainer, just about half. Now that I have as much as I want on there, you want to make sure that that's straight too, but it's not straight because it's not letting me go over. It's not letting me put this plate back. So I'm going to turn it over a little. Now that fits on tight, I'm just going to tighten this up against it, just to where it's snug. When you're tightening it, you want to make sure that this is as straight as possible. A good way you can tell is if you hold it up and down like that, and then you can tell, okay, it looks like it's to the left a little, so I can just push it a little to the right. Can't go too much because it's set, but that's pretty close. And then that little notch right there kind of helps you line up center. Take my wrench, put it on there again, just tighten that a little bit, and then I'm going to make sure it's still straight. Easiest way to tell is to kind of line it up just like that. When you go straight down at that notch, and then you line it up, you're going to take this in again, tighten it some more. That doesn't feel like that's budging. And you're just going to make sure again that it's straight. That looks straight to me. I'm going to do one last tighten. You don't have to use Loctite if you don't want to, but I just want it to be a little more secure. Can also do that a little bit. Looks pretty straight, whatever angle you need to look at it. Just going to drop in my spring, take my buffer weight, and then you can see the flat edges. Going to push that down, but I want to use one of the flat edges to get across, and then I'm just going to turn it just like that, so you can see how I'm not on any of the flat edges. So there's a flat edge, and then there's a flat edge. I want to make sure that that detent or that retainer pin is on one of the rounder, thicker edges. So that's all. I'm gonna take this to put my stock on. So same thing. Most stocks you just have to pull that down really far, but since I can't really get a good grip on it, I'm just gonna stick something in there and then pull that down as far as I can to slip it on the stock. Which I have to do it off camera, but pretty much I'm just doing that and then pulling it down while I'm pushing it on. So now that's on. As you can see, right there is the farthest I can get. So I used to be able to get it pretty close flush, but with my sling attachment, I was only able to get it to about there anyways. So for me, it's not much different. This is one click out anyways for most people. So even going one click out, it's not really going to add much length to it. Now I'm going to just check again, make sure I'm straight. That looks pretty straight. Just make sure your stock is in line, because you don't want your stock at an angle or curved. Last thing I need to do, just put the upper back on, and it can kind of help. These are pretty dry and they stick pretty well, so I'm just putting a little oil on there, make them slide a little bit easier. Go ahead and take my upper, gonna slip it right back in there. You just want to make sure, see there's a gap right there. You want to make sure there's no gap. Now you want to make sure there's no gap, and then push them in. You want to make sure there's not any gap. So right there, perfect. Now that I have both of them pushed in, they're going to be sticking out on both ends, and they're going to be flush over here. So both of those are flush. With this SBA 3, I still couldn't even get it closed all the way. That's the difference about right there. Even though that's a brace, that's going to close a little bit closer, but I'm really only losing about a ½ an inch when going from this to my other on the stock being collapsed all the way. When I have it right there, I'm way off my length of pull anyways, so shouldering it right there is like the shortest I would want to go anyways. I wouldn't even want to go in any farther. But anyways, that is the installation and overview of the BCM MK2 Recoil Mitigation System. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to comment down below. I'm going to be posting a bunch of other videos like this, other content related towards tactical and gear. So if you want to see more stuff like that, please leave a like and subscribe, and I would appreciate that. And it would help support the channel. Thank you for watching.